If you've been going around the good old internet looking for the right podcast to fulfill your New York Yankees needs, well, I'll be the first to deliver the good news to you. You have found it. Here on Yapping Yankees with me, your host, Mike Scudero, you and I will be discussing the latest news, takes, and talk throughout the entire Yankee universe. Oh, and there may be some ranting on my behalf. Yeah. Anyway, what do you say we get to it? Let's get to yapping! Well, hello there, my fellow Yankee fans, and welcome to episode 231 of the Yapping Yankees podcast. As always, I am your host, Mike Scudero, your friendly neighborhood Yankee yapper with the best yap in all the land, here on August 18th, 2024, here with yet another extra large order of the Yappuccino for you. Thank you very, very much. You might want to save your applause, though. You might want to save your applause because you're going to be using it again within the next couple of minutes because of the remarkable history made a few days ago by the remarkable Yankee captain. You probably already know what I'm talking about if you kept track with anything Yankees baseball this past week, but nonetheless, might want to save that for a second. But nonetheless, guys, it is great to finally join you again here for yet another Sunday of Yapping Yankees, episode 231. My God almighty. The episodes just fly by week by week. We're up to 231, and this is the second to last episode of the month of August before we enter the final month of the 2024 regular season. Can you freaking believe that? I honestly can't. I cannot believe that. How fast time just continues to go. It's unbelievable to me. And I'm also recording today's episode as I'm watching tonight's game, Yankees and Tigers. The game already started. It's the top of the second inning at the time that I've started recording. It's the early 7 o'clock hour, and there is no score yet. And you remember last week when I was saying that I was really baffled as to why the Yankees and Tigers were playing a 7 o'clock p.m. game, or 7:10 if you want to be specific about it, on ESPN for Sunday Night Baseball, and there were so many other better choices between better teams. Not even just that the Yankees are bad, the Yankees are amongst the best teams in baseball still, but facing a well under 500 Tigers team, there were collective matchups where both teams were a better watch, collectively, together, than the Yankees and Tigers head-to-head matchup. So I was just really confused as to why the Yankees got yet another Sunday Night Baseball edition here. But then I remembered, which is miraculous in itself considering my memory, but also considering the fact that I have no memory. Yeah, I know, it's hilarious. But I had remembered that they were playing the Little League Classic in Pennsylvania tonight at the Little League World Series ballpark, the famous one, Bowman Field. So I was like, all right, well, that makes complete sense then. I totally forgot about that. So that is why the Yankees and the Tigers are on ESPN Sunday Night Baseball tonight, and that's why I'm able to come to you while recording tonight's episode, reacting to said game live in real time, which I know a lot of you happen to like that I do on certain Sunday night games while I'm taping Yapping Yankees. So here we go. And it is the bottom of the second now. There's still no score. Anthony Volpe struck out to end the top of the second. Big surprise. And by big surprise, I mean the least surprising thing of all time, probably of late. And they actually just flashed on the screen real quick that Jazz Chisholm's favorite show is One Piece, which is iconic, because that means he's an anime fan, and that means he's freaking awesome, even though we already knew that. So that's a pretty cool fun fact to know. But anyways, we are reacting live to the game in real time tonight, so that's going to be fun throughout the episode. You'll have my in-game reactions sprinkled all throughout. And also because of that, and because this weekend has been a very chaotic one, especially yesterday, I went to a wedding for two of my very, very good friends, which I was very happy to be at, and it was a great time. Honestly, one of the best weddings I have been to personally. So it was genuinely a great time, but because of that and my lack of availability over the weekend overall, because of how busy I was with that and spending time with family and going out and doing a bunch of things and looking after the house with my mom in Italy and whatnot, I didn't have time to even think of a social media question, and it slipped right past me, guys. This is probably the first time that's ever happened in almost 250 episodes. So there's no social media segment tonight. I could have just bitten the bullet and done another Q&A and lazed out of it, but I didn't want to do that. So after weekly recap, that'll be the end of the show today. So maybe about 10 to 15 minutes shorter than usual will be the show tonight, depending on how much time my live, in real-time reactions to the game take up in today's episode. But other than that, that is the docket for today mostly, my friends, along just talking about the team overall, live reacting, no social media segment, but it's still going to be a fun one. You still sit back, kick your feet back, get your favorite food, your favorite drink. Even if you're busy doing something while you're listening to me and you're multitasking, well, then go ahead and keep doing that and enjoy. Sit back and enjoy. That's what Yapping Yankees is all about, right? So, bottom of the second now, as I'm looking over, Stroman's got 2 quick outs already. He had a very quick bottom of the first, and he looks to be having a quick bottom of the second as well, which is very good. I'd very much like Stroman to build upon what he finally did in his last outing when he turned things around a bit, so that'll be very nice to see. And he seems to be off to that here in the early part of the game. Still a lot of it to go, though, so I don't want to jinx nothing. Hopefully he gets out of this bottom of the second scoreless. But I want him to continue on with that because the rotation needs him. Obviously, the rotation's a big part of the team's success or lack thereof. And in a very weird week where the pitching has continued to be suspect at times, or the offense has been suspect at times, even against a couple of really bad teams, especially the White Sox, well, Stroman throwing another good game would certainly help to stabilize things in what was a pretty weird, I guess you could say turbulent week? Is that a good word for it? I think it might be. But filled with a lot of highs and a lot of lows. The biggest high of all, if I had to say, which is me capitalizing on the thing that I had hinted to just a couple of minutes ago at the show open when it came to saving your applause. I would think the biggest thing of this past week, the thing that I was most excited about, even on the days where the Yankees were scoring a bunch of runs or just having themselves a nice victory, regardless of what it was, I would say this was at the apex of all of it. And I think it's safe to say that due to it, I think the utmost of congratulations are in order for our captain because of this.
Hammered in the air, deep to left field, history, number 300 for Aaron Judge, the fastest man ever in Major League Baseball to reach the 300 home run plateau.
Audio and courtesy of the S Network, especially to the man, the myth, the legend himself, on call for Judge's historic home run, the king, Ryan Rooks. Ryan Ruocco, my boy. That is my guy right there. I love him. I'm so glad he got to be on call for that historic home run, and he hit it out of the park as usual. Pun intended. And you even heard him say that Judge was also the fastest player ever. Think of that ever word for a second. Ever in Major League Baseball history to reach 300 homers. And I say it all the time. It doesn't take anything away from his greatness, but it could definitely even further add to it, being given more time in Major League Baseball to even further improve those already surreal overall career statistics. Can you imagine if Aaron Judge was called up at like 21 years old, even as opposed to like 25, 26, in his mid-20s? Can you imagine that? I mean, even more time to do what he has so phenomenally done over the years. To be at 300 home runs already, even though he's only seen about 8 or 9 years of the league. With the amount of home runs he has hit just in the last couple of years alone. Alone. And what he will finish 2024 with. Let's say if he finishes anywhere from 55 to 60, which is what I predicted him to finish at prior to the season starting. I said he would finish with 55 or more, in my opinion. He's well on track for that at the very least. But let's say he finishes with 55. He had 62 in 2022. In just 106 games last year, he had 37 in just 106 games. So you have to imagine he would probably finish with, give or take, now or 2022's pace of home runs last year with a full season's worth of gameplay. And this year, let's say he finishes with 55 exactly. Finish with a nice clean number. You combine these past 3 seasons alone in the event that he finishes with at least 55 this year. You're talking about 154 plus home runs in 3 seasons. 3. This is not including his rookie year. Because if you want to include the rookie year, that's well past 200 home runs inside of 4 seasons combined. It's absolutely ridiculous what this man has continued to accomplish. And then you look at all the other numbers that he's compiled in 2024. So far, I mean, coming into tonight, he's batting .332 with an on-base percentage of .464, a slugging of .707, and an OPS of 1172. His OPS plus is .222. 44 home runs now. 300 is number 43, so he has 301 now, obviously. 111 RBIs. Any player on the face of the earth would gladly give those numbers and mail it in if those were final numbers for a season. There's still about a month and a half left to play with numbers like that, my friends. We're witnessing all-time history right now. We're living in a time where we are seeing one of the game's best hitters ever. And I'm very lucky to be able to be putting out content weekly in that time period. I've gotten to cover almost all of Judge's career on this podcast alone. I started in the beginning of 2019 with this show. Yes, I missed his rookie year. Yes, I missed 2018. And obviously the very end of 2016 when he was called up. But the vast majority of the greatness that we have seen, especially the last 3 seasons alone, I've gotten to talk about in real time. And all of us have gotten to witness it in real time. It is a privilege. It is awesome. These are the kind of things that we always would talk about then, or maybe even right now. We would talk about all the greatness of the past for the Yankees, saying, oh my God, all the amazing things our grandparents got to tell us about. Whether it be recently, whether it be a bunch of years ago, regardless, all the things that the older generations were able to tell us younger people about. And even if people like me, in my lifetime, the Yankees have only won 4 titles, which, that's very good. Some people have never gotten to see any, and they might be elderly. So I don't want to sound too spoiled, but in my lifetime, they've won 4. As far as the ones I was able to comprehend because of my young age at 27 and a half years old, I've only gotten to witness, understand, comprehend, and enjoy 1 in 2009. So as far as being able to comprehend and enjoy championships, not much beyond just the 1. And that was 15 years ago. But as far as individual players that the older generations were able to always tell us about, DiMaggio, Mantle, Ruth, Gehrig, depending on what era you belong in and your elders were telling you about, Whitey Ford, Thurman Munson, Ron Guidry. I mean, I could go on and on and on. We all know the list of Yankees legends is nearly endless. But this is truly an example right here, right now, that even if his career ended today, with the certain things that Aaron Judge managed to accomplish, with just a World Series championship being the only missing major marker, I would have to say, even though that is a team accomplishment over an individual accomplishment, but with that being the only thing missing, otherwise, he is the perfect example, the picture-perfect example of a guy that us young people will be able to talk to our grandkids about one day, being grateful that we got to witness it in real time. And it doesn't happen often, guys. Not at the scale that it has happened with Judge. So we have got to appreciate each and every historical accomplishment he achieves as they happen. And this one was yet another one. 300 home runs. And he may have come up later than certain other legends of the past, but obviously, you hope his career is nowhere near over and that he has plenty of time to even further surpass that. I mean, the sky's the limit, man, for a guy like this. He's at 301 home runs at age 32, officially with 9 seasons under his belt. And with that 9th season, with still a month and a half to go, and Lord knows how many home runs he will hit in that remaining time. Every single day, I turn on the TV with at least a corner of my mind, a little portion of my mind, wondering what it is that Aaron Judge specifically could do today. And that's really special. That's a chunk of a reason why some people might even tune into the Yankees nowadays. I mean, yes, they are overall a good team with a good record, still in first place. Officially, even more so if they hold on today because the Orioles did beat the Red Sox earlier. So in order for them to still hold on to sole possession of first place, the Yankees will have to win tonight. If they lose, then they'll fall back into a tie, which the Yankees and the Orioles have found themselves in for the vast majority of, I would say, better part of the last couple of months now, which is crazy. Just how even they have remained, with just maybe one team taking first place over the other for just a couple of days, and then just getting back into a tie, maybe the other one taking it, getting back into a tie. The back and forth has been incredible. But nonetheless, throughout it all, the man at the center of all of it, like usual, is the man appropriately named captain, Aaron Judge. And he's at over 300 home runs now, and Lord knows how many more are still in store. But congratulations for now to Aaron on the accomplishment. Cannot wait for 400 and beyond. And we know that we're probably going to see it before too long because of how many freaking homers this man happens to hit. So, just another piece of history for the captain. Absolutely. Round of applause. I said you'd have to save it. Unbelievable. So number 300 for Aaron James Judge. And away we go, hoping to see more and more throughout his remarkable career. Maybe we'll get one tonight. We'll see. The game is now in the bottom of the third, and after a stolen base by the Tigers, there's a runner in scoring position off of Stroman, with 2 outs, though. And the count is 2-1. Hopefully he does not. He keeps him off the scoreboard, and it's a ground ball to DJ. That's the end of the inning, so it's still no score going to the top of the 4th. Quiet offensive night. The Yankees do have 2 hits. The Tigers have 1, but there is no score heading to the top of the 4th. I think they were just talking to Soto during the game, which I can't stand that ESPN does that with the split screen with the game and the players talking and them being out in the field. You want them to freaking concentrate. I'm sure they're good at multitasking, but my God. You just want to watch the game. We're here to watch the game, bro. I've complained about this a million times with ESPN. I don't have to go through it again and subject you to that complaining, but nonetheless, my gosh, just focus on the game. But it's not surprising that this game is scoreless. I actually would think that the Tigers would have gotten on the scoreboard by now because even though he got on good track last time I mentioned Marcus Stroman, my trust in him is still a little shaken with that just consecutive amount of starts that he went through. He was just brutal. Just not good at all. Not going deep into the game whatsoever, allowing far too many runs and overinflating his ERA beyond, to say the least. And, well, the Tigers have Skubal going tonight, so I just didn't have a good feeling about it, but especially because the Yankees generally cannot hit left-handed pitchers if a gun were to their head. We know this has been well established, especially someone like him facing them. Just didn't feel good about it, but we're still scoreless here. So maybe the Yankees just scratch 1 or 2 off him, drive up his pitch count. I do know that earlier on in the night, Jose Trevino had a 10-pitch at-bat off him, drive him up his pitch count a little bit, making him work. So maybe everybody can get into that groove over here and get him out of the game as soon as possible here. And maybe get to the Tigers' pen, and Stroman can keep the Tigers off the board here, because the Yankees, not only because you don't want to fall back into yet another tie with the Orioles, despite how much time there is still left to play in the season, but you don't want to lose a series to the Detroit Tigers also. So, especially because the series with the White Sox got a little hairy for a second there too, which is unbelievable to even say. We'll go through the specific details of each game in the weekly recap to end the show, obviously. That's when I go through all of the little nitty-gritty details of each and every game. But my goodness, even that got scary a little bit. Judgy, speaking of him, just got done talking about him. He's leading off the top of the 4th, and he hits a base into right center field. This man is unstoppable! He is literally the definition of unstoppable. There's nobody in the game. Oh my gosh, what is his average closing in on 335 now?
Holy crap!
You're not kidding, Frank Barone. Oh my gosh, and then Stanton rockets one down to third. That's going to be a double play. Damn it! Ah. Reach base in his first at-bat, and then he hits a laser down to third, and what Judge did is immediately undone. 2 outs, nobody on. Crap! Ah, immediate mood killer. Damn it. And, well, certain man is stepping up to the plate now. Man that I'll get to in a little bit, unless he does something major here, then I'll just name drop him. But it's good to see him back in the major leagues finally, even if it is only for tonight, most likely. But we'll get to that in Yankees news, obviously. But that's the deal with the game right now, guys. But yeah, this past week, very, very weird. Very odd. Get to the details later on, but as far as the team overall and what contributed to that. Starting rotation is a bit of it. Offense is a bit of it. Bullpen is a bit of it. What would you like to go through first? I guess we could pick the offense first and foremost because we did talk about the rotation first and foremost on last week's episode, if I'm not mistaken. We'll go through it in the order that the lineup is tonight. Why not? Gleyber Torres, we'll start with him. Well, I mean, guys, my position on him is unchanged. I still don't think that he really belongs on this team, and I still think that it is an absolute disgrace what he's continued to do, or I guess I should say not do, in a contract year in the months leading up to when he could possibly have made himself huge money, but instead he decided to cost himself tens of millions of dollars by putting up the season that he has. In the last 7 games, he's batting .250, he's 6 for his last 24, and he's 15 for his last 57, which is good for an average around .260. It's not brutal, but it's not nearly good enough to make up for what he has done for the vast majority of the season, guys. That thing just continues to be done. The defensive blunders are still there, and whenever he has the opportunity to make a stupid move on the bases, he'll also do that. So my position on Gleyber is mainly unchanged. I will say, though, that it's not the worst thing in the entire world to have him in the leadoff spot because just about anybody was better than Alex Verdugo. And speaking of him, let's just jump to him right away, why don't we? But finally, just in the last couple of days, got moved out of the leadoff spot. Speaking of that. Which, I mean, it was about friggin' time, because I know he went through that little spurt again after their previous visit to Fenway Park. We all know their first visit to Fenway Park was the start of his downturn. Then they went again, and he got a little bit of a spark for a couple of weeks. But then in the last, I don't know, few weeks overall, again, he has fallen apart. He's 5 for his last 27, which is a 185 average. He's 12 for his last 59, which is an average of barely 200. And that's the same case, give or take, in the last 30 games. So this has been going on for a while now that Verdugo has downturned once again. Overall, on his entire season, in light of all this, and because of the man they happen to call up for tonight's game, Verdugo, thankfully, is out of the lineup. But if you look at his overall numbers, his on-base percentage for the season now is down to .294. It's not even .300 anymore. And this was a man that the Yankees were batting in the leadoff spot for weeks, even a while after he started to downturn once again. And what is the most important statistic, if you had to say, with the leadoff spot? That's correct. It's on-base percentage, if you happen to guess that. If you didn't, well, then you're freaking wrong. But if you happen to guess it correctly, yes, it is the on-base percentage, because you are to be first and foremost, even if you want to do this to the utmost degree, then you are also encouraged and not limited to doing that. I mean, hitting leadoff home runs, that'd be nice too, but more so than anything, your priority as the leadoff hitter, we always say this, should be to, however you can, hit, walk, home run, extra base hit by pitch, even a catcher's interference, anything you gotta do. Your first priority is to get on base and be the table setter for the big guys after you in the middle part of the lineup. The big RBI guys who drive in all the runs. That should be your first priority more than anything. Verdugo has not done that for a while now. And yet they only just in the last couple of days decided to finally move him out of the leadoff spot. And I know that nobody's crazy about Gleyber. Hell, I've made it more than clear that I am not crazy about Gleyber even a little freaking bit. But nonetheless, anyone at this point, especially as far as on-base percentage is concerned, even if it's not a huge discrepancy between him and Gleyber Torres, still a better option than Verdugo in the leadoff spot because of that. Just about literally anyone else in the entire lineup is a better choice than Alex Verdugo for leadoff now, just based off of the merit of on-base percentage. So needless to say, it is about freaking time this guy was moved out of the leadoff spot in the lineup. And honestly, tonight, it's nice to see him out of the lineup, period, because of the way he has played lately. And even if his temporary replacement for tonight, at least, has struck out twice, I would still rather him strike out than Verdugo strike out, because at least with the other guy, I don't even know why I'm keeping it secret at this point, we all know who it is, but you know the potential of the other guy. We all know what Alex Verdugo is already. We all know it. And needless to say also, I am just sick and tired of Verdugo's lack of effort. If I'm going to hold Gleyber or anybody else to this standard, obviously I'm going to hold Verdugo or anybody else to it too, if you portray these sort of behaviors as well. Nobody gets a pass here. But Verdugo the other night in Chicago even, popping up that bunt and then in the post-game interview, admitting to maybe getting a little lazy, admitting to laziness as a Major League Baseball player is a choice. I mean, we still all saw it with our own eyes. We can make our own judgments anyway. But admitting to it is just... wow. Renders me speechless, honestly. The way he continues to not run almost anything out. It's maddening. It gets to a point of once again asking, even if it's temporary right now, like, do you even care, bro? Like, what are you doing? So, that's why I'm saying, because of the way he has been pissing me off of late, really nice to see Verdugo just not playing tonight, and I hope they keep up with that the entire night. See what happens. Stroh just got through the 4th inning scoreless, so there you go. Top of the 5th, no runs on the board for either team. And I also did notice that DJ was at first base. I thought that Rice started this game. Oh, I'm a moron. I'm looking at yesterday's game. Oh, my gosh. It's been a long weekend, guys. All right, Trevino grounded out to start the top of the 5th. Nothing going on in this game so far. Nothing at all. But speaking of Ben Rice, I mean, makes me sad to say. I was so excited about the kid, especially after I saw his 3-homer game in person. But, I mean, he's also gotten some very inconsistent playing time of late, but that is kind of a fault of his own because despite him still being young and learning, and I understand all that, he has been very underwhelming for some time now. In his last 30 games, I mean, he's batting 160. He's just got nothing going. He's 16 for his last 100. I mean, it's got to be a little bit bad. I mean, overall, he's 25 for 133, which is a 188 average. I don't know, man. So, he's starting to fizzle out a little bit and actually making a decent case for weeks now. This is very different a bunch of weeks ago, but hey, lots of time passes and things change. But he's making a case for the Yankees to put Anthony Rizzo right back out there when he is ready to play again. So, I don't know. Ben Rice has really been struggling. DJ's over there down at first for him once again, even though DJ, I mean, he had a good few games over there around the time of the Philadelphia series for about a week and a half or so, but he's definitely come back down to earth once again. That was a nice little spurt there, but he's 4 for his last 19 again. I mean, we'll see. But DJ continues to, I mean, he's been nice and versatile around the diamond as he's usually known to be. But, I mean, he definitely has come back down to earth. He's up at bat right now, 2 outs and nobody on, 0-2 count. That's up and away. But, I mean, don't expect really anything crazy out of him. It was really nice there for that little bit, that little spurt that took place. And you say that if the Yankees are to be successful, then getting a DJ back even slightly reminiscent of 2019 and or 2020 would do wonders for this team. I wouldn't hold my breath with it. I definitely wouldn't. So, yeah, they seem to be rotating for first base right now, but cases are being made for Rizzo to be thrown right back in there when he's ready to go, guys. I think that's, to say the least, which I don't think I would have said about a month ago, but listen, time passes, things change. You got to adjust. Soto, and as we just got talking about before, Judge. Soto's still over 300. OPS over 1,000. 34 home runs now after all the home runs he hit this past week. A huge jump from the last time we spoke last Sunday. Nearing 90 RBIs now. The most home runs Soto has ever had in a season was 35 in San Diego. He's about to break that, or tie it rather, with his next one, whenever it may be, with over a month left to play. And many of his home runs have been absolute nukes. Many of them have been on the road. So I don't want to hear that it's Yankee Stadium short porch crap, because that's what that is, crap. So it's pretty unbelievable, and I did say what this guy was probably gearing up to do, especially because it is a contract year for him. I mean, to have 2 guys on the same team. One guy defining what not to do in a contract year, and one guy defining what to do in a contract year, Juan and Glaber. Complete flip sides of the coin. But nonetheless, we're watching 2 examples on the extremes of both sides, what to do and what not to do, and Juan Soto obviously is what to do. But he's just been absolutely incredible still, especially this past week. Just bonkers. Absolute bonkers. Judge is doing what he's doing. Gave his numbers before. Absolutely incredible. Stanton has had his spurts of good, but then he also shows, the side of him that's really ugly with certain swings that he takes. We all know this. We know that Stanton has this tendency. This past week, he did hit a couple of home runs, but it's still been, at times, a little ugly with him, but at other times he drives in runs in key moments, so Stanton's an odd one. He's a wild card. We know this. When he gets a hold of one, just sit back and watch it fly. But when he doesn't, and he goes through an ugly spurt, there are not many players that it is harder to watch. So, that's still my boy. And he's at 20 home runs now, which is awesome to see. But sometimes you just got to be a little patient if you have any tolerance for patience with him. Then there's the man who's batting tonight who just came up for this one game as the 27th man for the Little League Classic Edition in Bowman Field tonight. Stroman just struck out Trey Sweeney, making his Major League debut this weekend with the Tigers. It's pretty awesome. And Stroman just struck him out just now. Obviously, he was the one that the Dodgers traded over for Jack Flaherty. Unbelievable. And obviously, the Dodgers got Trey Sweeney from the Yankees. So, again, that stings. But nonetheless, Yankees just struck him out. There's one man on and one out for the Tigers in the bottom of the fifth. Stroman's still keeping them scoreless, and he's being very economical here. With one out in the fifth, he's got in the mid-50s in pitch count. So that's really good. Stroman looks terrific tonight. Hope he keeps up on this, especially because the starters need to get back on the trend of giving more length and giving that bullpen some relief. So if Stroman could go at least 6 tonight, that'd be pretty freaking cool. Got to be honest. Remember that long streak where every Yankee starter was going at least 6 or so innings to start the year, and it was going really well? God, it'd be so great to recapture that. It'd be so great. But nonetheless, obviously I don't even really have to give much of insight on the man who's just up for tonight's game until the rosters expand on September 1st, of course, because it is only his first game back. Not much to analyze, but still excited to see him there. Trevino has returned from injury like we hinted he might in the coming days last Sunday's episode. Well, he is back, so he's splitting his time with Austin Wells, even though I definitely do think that Wells should be getting more playing time. I do think if there's a week of 7 games in a row, perhaps, just as an example, Wells should get at least 4 of the games. I know it can get a little tricky sometimes if there's a doubleheader or if there's a day game after a night game. I understand that, but I do want Wells getting significantly more playing time than Trevino, because especially what he did while Trevino was out, I definitely think Wells earned that. So I hope the Yankees honor that and do right by him. But Trevino's in the lineup tonight, and he's just back for the last few days. Looks to be okay so far. And since coming back, I do have to say, he's making some better throws down to second base. They're still not hard throws, high-velocity throws like I would hope that they would be, but they're more accurate, and they're arriving a little sooner, if I had to say. So it's a bit of an improvement, because we spoke about for months what a humongous issue it was that Trevino could no longer throw down to much of any base, let alone second. So that's definitely good to see. DJ, we already spoke about him. As of this past week, although it is in light of some bad news, so that's the unfortunate part, involving Jazz Chisholm. But in light of the news involving Jazz, another kid has been called back up for the first time in a while amidst all the injury troubles he was going through. And then for a while, he was ice cold in the minors. But then of late, we have spoken about this a little bit in the past few weeks at times, but he has been red hot. And amidst the news with Jazz, he has gotten another shot here, so that's awesome to see. But Oswald Peraza has returned, and he's definitely looked good at times, made some solid contact. Oh my God, the Tigers just hit one in the gap. I hope that runner doesn't score. Get that ball in. Judge is running after it. Throw it in, Judgy. Throw it in. Volpe's got it. Relay to the plate. Oh, he's a dead duck. He's out. Let's freaking go. Let's go. They got Jung at the plate. Debuting for this weekend as well. What a relay. Holy crap. Nice job by the Yankees there. Could have been a little bit of a blemish by Stroman, but a nice play at the plate after a nice relay with Judge and Volpe, thankfully. Got Jung at the plate by a lot. And that run does not score. So a nice play at the plate prevents the first run of the game, let alone the first run for the Tigers, from scoring. And Stroman still has a scoreless line after 5 innings with a pitch count only in the low 60s. We move, man. So that's pretty awesome. Wow. What a moment in the game. Wow, the stadium was going crazy. So, yeah, Oswald Peraza's back. It's good to see him back. Anthony Volpe. Well, the kid is still playing like crap. What can I tell you? In his last 7 games, he's 3 for his last 24. He's 10 for his last 57 in his last 15 games. And even in his last 30 games, he's 29 for his last 120, which is an average about to dip into the 230s at this point. So the hitting is not there. The pop has disappeared once again within the last week and a half or so. Not that he's mainly known for his pop, but it is nice to see. And he's still just straying from what works, having stupid at-bats. And you know what? The worst thing of it all is that as of this past week, he's even brought the crap gameplay into the field. Just a couple of nights ago, he dropped a routine pop-up in the infield. Just straight up dropped it. When it was really the third baseman's play, when Peraza was there, he called him off, and then he just dropped the ball. And he even almost made a bobble he did make a bobble, but he recovered on a ground ball up the middle at one point on Friday's game 2. So he's bringing his crappy batting into the field as well, which stinks. And needless to say, even further adds to the frustration because you know what this kid should be doing, but then you see what he is doing, and it's enough to make you want to rip your hair out. You know the talent's there, but he's just not being smart about it. So it's crap. And the more it happens, the more irritating it gets. You know he's still young. You know he's still learning, still trying to find those next steps, but we've seen spurts of that talent showing its head every now and again. It even appeared a bit after the All-Star break for a couple of weeks. But now, for the past few, it's gotten ugly once again, which is what it has been for the vast majority of the time from, I'd say, the better part of May all the way up to the All-Star break. It's not great. He's got to get on a better track. He's too important. Too important. And especially after that drop pop-up, I mean, they seem completely reluctant to do this. I mean, whatever. And they're even giving the excuse, because he fouled the ball off his foot, so it might be his foot. Okay, so sit him then! Why are you pushing it if he's in pain? And you see the outcome of it. He's playing terribly, and it's even happening in the field. And I don't want to hear that it's his foot that he dropped the pop-up. The foot's not connected to the hand or eyesight on a routine pop-up. He got there. He just dropped it. Enough with the excuses. And if he's in pain, then sit him. Because right now, with Chisholm being on the IL, unfortunately, and Peraza being back up here, you have Cabrera hitting the way that he's been, yet you've been so reluctant for some reason to continue to play him, even though he's also been good in the field too. He can play anywhere. You have him, you have Peraza, numerous guys who can play shortstop just for a day or two if need be, in the event that Volpe needs time to rest the foot, or if he needs time for a mental reset, whatever reason that you need to sit Volpe, you have guys who could pick up the slack for a couple of days. You don't have to keep forcing the issue. So that's just the annoying thing. And I think a couple of days off would really benefit him because he has been a mess. It has not been fun to watch Anthony Volpe play baseball at all. So very frustrating to continue to watch him. I hope he just figures it out somehow. His numbers continue to go down from the last time we spoke about him. While Cabrera continues to sit on the bench, I don't know what they have against this kid. We've spoken about it endlessly, but I don't know what they continue to have against him. I don't get it. They've been playing him a little bit more since Jazz got hurt. Yeah, but they quite literally have no choice. I mean, yeah, they could have Glaber at second, Volpe at short, Peraza at third, which is really the pattern they've picked up, but I mean, you could still afford to play Cabrera some more, especially with what Volpe's been doing, how Glaber just tends to be in general, and these are both positions that Cabrera happens to know how to play. So what we're waiting for, I don't know. What I hope the Yankees don't wait for, though, even more so, is right now, the opportunity to score. Because Glaber actually just led off the inning with a walk, and then Soto just walked. So Skubal's off a little bit to start the 6th inning, and Judgy is coming to the plate. Let's see what goes on. I think I've covered the vast majority of the offense, with the exception of the one man that's up here just for tonight's game that I'll get to a bit later on. But I'm going to pause right now to follow Judgy's at-bat. He fouls off the changeup with the first pitch. Oh my God, come on, Judgy. He hits number 45 right now. I will literally erupt right here, right now, on Yapping Yankees. Oh my gosh, and Skubal's also about to throw his 89th pitch. He's getting towards the end. Come on, Judgy. Oh, swung and missed on a changeup low. He's having a tough time with that changeup tonight. He struck out on it in the first inning, too, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Having a little bit of a tough time with it. Little bit. It's 0-2. By the way, did you see Judge's numbers since his slump at the very beginning of the season, those first 3 weeks or so, ended? His average is in like the 360s or 370s, which is the vast majority of the season. It's just with the exception of the first 3 weeks or so. It's literally insane. All right, change up low. 1-2. 90 pitches now for Skubal. If you're going to tag him, it's got to be now. This has got to be his last inning here. 1-2 pitch. Come on, Judgy. Ground ball. Oh, God, to short. No, not two. Oh, it's a double play. Yeah. Damn it. All right, Stanton, you got to come through, buddy. Runner on third, 2 outs now. Damn it. That was the opportunity, man. That was the opportunity. Well, Stanton could still come through. We'll see. He could still come through. I know this isn't the best content for you guys because you're listening to this after the game has ended, at least, whether it be immediately tonight or tomorrow at some point throughout the rest of the week up until next week's episode, so you already know the outcome. But, I figure hearing me react to when it's going on is also entertaining, I would hope. Otherwise, if you don't enjoy me, then what are you doing here? So, yeah, that's the offense, guys. Talk about the pitching as Stanton's up at the plate. It's 1-0 on him already. Change up low in the dirt. But the pitching has been kind of all over the place as of this past week, as it has been for the vast majority of the past few months, it feels like, right? So I guess it's fitting of the Yankees. But even to start the week, Luis Gil got completely owned in Chicago. Oh, wild pitch! Come home, Glaber! Come home, hurry! Yes! 1-0. Let's go. You get your runs however you can get them. I don't even care. 1-0, baby. Let's go. All right. 1-0 Yanks on the wild pitch. Glaber barely made it home. Holy crap, he barely made it. Oh, my God, that would have been another base-running blunder. I wouldn't be able to handle that. They almost got him. It was a good replay to the plate, but, oh, my goodness. It's 1-0, though. See what Stanton does. 2-0. Now it's low, 3-0. So it looks like if Stanton's smart here, he has a good chance to reach base as Skubal nears 100 pitches now. I'm just glad the Yankees have a run. It's better than nothing. Get Stroman a little bit of support here. 3-0 to Stanton, and it's outside and called a strike. There's no shot that was a strike. Let me look at that on game day real quick. Hold up. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, yeah, it was outside. These umpires. It'll never end. Our torment will never end. But yeah, about the pitching, Luis Gil, he had started the Chicago series. Stanton walked, let's go. But he had started the Chicago series. Just an absolute travesty. We know that although Luis Gil's last few starts has not been bad, he's been on a better pace, but the last couple, he hasn't gone as deep, and the walks have been a little bit prevalent again. So you maybe had a feeling that he was coming up on an outing where he was going to just take another step back, and the start in Chicago, the last team you'd expect it against, but the start in Chicago was that finally happening. A very ugly outing, so Luis Gil is going to have to look to bounce back once again in his next outing. People are questioning where he might be at as far as an innings limit on his arm, because we all know the situation. We've been over it 1,000 times. We'll see how the Yankees continue to handle it going forward. Obviously, their options are a bit strapped, as Clark Schmidt is yet to return. He's still working his way back to return within the next, I would say, 3-ish weeks. But I don't know. The situation might start to get a little bit tricky with Gil. Nestor finally had a nice bounce back in his last outing, the outing in Chicago. If there's a team to do well against, it's going to be against the White Sox. But, anything can happen. You could be Luis Gil and go out and bomb against them. Anything's possible. So it's nice to see Nestor finally bounce back, but he's got to do it against better teams to continually restore the confidence that has been badly battered to this point, I think it's safe to say. And he's got to do it consistently. And we know for a while, up until that Chicago start, he had been, for the most part, consistently awful. So there's that big question mark, and you hope he can build on the Chicago start. Then you have Carlos Rodon, who had been phenomenal for about 4 starts in a row, but then his most recent start just yesterday, back to being bad. Went 3 1/3 innings, so no length, like many of his starts from the Boston start up until just about, 4 starts ago. Was notorious for having little to no length at all. And now he showcased that again yesterday, which is not great, but hopefully next time out he can get back on a better track to what we have seen for the 4 or so starts leading up to yesterday's start. Then you have Garrett Cole, who continues to look solid. Looked really good in the Detroit outing a couple of nights ago. You love to see that. Ace continuing to find his way back, 6 shutout in Detroit. And Stroman here tonight, in this Little League Classic game, seems to be building on the prior start that he had, where he was finally starting to look like he could turn things around here. And that's continuing in tonight's outing, even though, yes, he had to play at the plate, a solid relay on a double into the gap that saved him from giving up that 1 run, but nonetheless, still no runs given up through 5 here at least. And he's been, as I said before, very economical. So again, a lot of just back and forth with the rotation, a lot of unsteadiness. You never know what you're going to get. You never know what you're going to get from the Yankees overall. And that's why the episode title is appropriately titled the way that it is, because that's the major theme of what we've spoken about. Lots of ups and downs throughout the lineup, lots of ups and downs throughout the rotation, lots of ups and downs throughout the bullpen, ups and downs overall in overall results, whether it be even with the wins and losses with certain games. And that's been a major theme of the Yankees for a while now, and it could cause you some anxiety going down the road for the potential postseason run. I mean, we'll see how that turns out. There's no guarantees. But you go into each day wondering, which Yankee team are you going to get? Which will we get? Are we going to get a team that looks efficient, starting pitching-wise, and the offense is going to go out there and do its thing, maybe even the bullpen locking things up, all 3 things aligning perhaps? We love when that happens. Or are we going to see a night where the pitching sucks, and the offense is doing everything they can to stay with it, but it might be futile? The bullpen might also stink, or be good. Or maybe the pitching's good and the offense stinks. We saw days of all of these things this past week, so that's why it's yet another major theme for this Sunday's episode. It's been a bit all over the place, though. Pretty chaotic. And again, more specific details to come with each individual player and their performances from this past week in the weekly recap segment. But yeah, things are just kind of all over the place, and you wonder if you're going to get the Yankee team that gets absolutely embarrassed by a historically awful White Sox team, like they did to start the week, or are you going to get the Yankee team that absolutely embarrasses somebody and does what they're supposed to do, like they did to end the White Sox series, and like they did to start the Tigers series with a very nicely played game. Or you could get, again, the very next day, that awful Yankee team, like yesterday, where they get 4 measly hits and can't amount to absolutely anything after their starting pitcher kind of buries them a little early, which, as we know, in the recent past bunch of weeks, has been a major theme that the Yankee starting pitchers have been guilty of doing to the offense. You don't know what you're going to get. Overall evaluation is still fine because ultimately they still did win the series in Chicago. Right now they are winning this game against the Tigers, however close. And if they win this game tonight, they will win yet another series, so it'll be a successful road trip at 4-2 in the event of that happening. And they will still retain sole possession of first place. So at the worst, they could go 3-3 on this road trip, but losing a series to the Tigers would also, of course, not be ideal, to say the least. Well, Stroman did just strike out Riley Green, but then, since it was a pitch in the dirt, Trevino couldn't handle it, went to the backstop, and he reached on the strikeout, so that's slightly frustrating. Now Veerling's up at bat. So that's not a great way to start the 6th inning right after the Yankees just supplied themselves and Stroman with a lead. But we'll see what happens. Woo! Stroman just got Veerling looking on a stunning changeup. Wow, absolute paint job in the outside corner. That actually did look outside. Let me check on that, but, I mean, that's still a really good-looking pitch. Let's take a really quick look at that, and it was outside. Another umpire W! Oh, my God, it never ends. It absolutely never ends with these absolute morons behind the plate. It never fails. Who is behind the plate tonight? Let me look at this. Hold up 1 second. Home plate umpire Manny Gonzalez. That's not a surprise. And he looks to be having an absolutely horrid evening back there, as most umpires often do. So that's not a surprise there. Oh, crap. To start the next at-bat, deep fly ball to right. And Soto's under to make the catch, thank God. That looked a lot worse off the bat. Oh, my gosh. Yeah, that was pretty scary there. Kerry Carpenter just hit that one. It looked a lot worse off the bat than it actually was. So one more out, and then Stroman is through 6 shutout. And I don't even believe he is at 80 pitches yet. Yeah, the next pitches is 80th. So if he keeps this count efficient here and economical, there is no reason why he can't go 7 shutout. Hopefully shutout, but definitely at least 7. That would be awesome for the bullpen, man. Awesome. Especially considering the fact the Yankees have an off day tomorrow. So you can have Stroman make the bullpen only have to get 6 outs, and then everybody else who doesn't pitch in the entire bullpen overall gets the overall reset from the off day anyway. That'd be really, really nice. Especially considering on Tuesday, they're going to be coming back home to face their only tough opponent for the remainder of August, if I had to say, in the Cleveland Guardians. All hands on deck for that. But speaking of what's coming up, and speaking of what's happened this past week overall, as far as the Yankees and their gameplay, what do you say we follow last week's format where I actually did the weekly recap after the open to the show? Because we were just talking about everything that happened throughout this past week. It would be pretty foolish to not just give the overall recap of all of it with in-depth details. And I actually like switching up that format, at least for last week, so let's do it again right now. Yapping Yankees Time Machine, recapping what happened in all the games this past week. Let's do it. And so we begin our very turbulent week with what was just, I mean, even if it's only a game, guys, just an absolute, probably the embarrassment of the year in Chicago to start the series against the White Sox. And yes, ultimately, I know the Yankees still won the series. That's what's most important. It is only a game. I well understand that. But this just goes along with the overall idea of what are we going to get? Are we going to get the Yankees that come out like this? Or are we going to get the Yankees that, more often than not, I would say, over the course of the entire season, especially in the first couple of months, do what they're supposed to do, per se? This was one of those games where you got the worst version of the Yankees, mainly thanks to, as I said earlier on in the show, to Luis Gil, because he had an absolutely inexcusable outing. 4 innings with 7 hits given up, 2 walks, 4 runs, and only 3 strikeouts in that time. Just long, drawn-out, laborious at-bats, and it just seemed like nothing he did worked. There was just no way out of it. And it just ended up being completely embarrassing. And the bullpen after that, Tim Hill, he even gave up a run, although he wasn't bad in 2 1/3. He gave up a run. And then Enyel De Los Santos, who since this, and we'll talk about that in news after this to end the show, but since this happened, and thankfully it did, because in his last couple of outings, this one included, it was just inexcusably horrible, and it's embarrassing it had to happen this soon, considering he was one of very few deadline pickups just weeks ago. He has since been DFA'd, because in this outing, he went 1 2/3 and gave up 7 runs, all of them earned on 8 hits, so he just allowed it to get completely out of hand. Completely out of hand. Because at one point, this game was just a 4-2 game. After the top of the 5th was done, and the Yankees put up another run at the time in the top of the 5th on an Anthony Volpe RBI single, infield single. So at that point, it was a close game, but then De Los Santos just came in and it got completely and utterly out of control. And before you knew it, it was 12-2. Yankees fell to the White Sox, the worst team in baseball, rivaling possibly the 1962 Mets for amongst the worst records in a season in Major League history. And it is only one game, but to get embarrassed like this, that's a no-no. So just Luis Gil, he's got to do better next time out. He's got to do better. And we're going to see it right away on Tuesday when he faces the Guardians in a couple of days, but it's got to go better than that. Has to. Tuesday, the Yankees would come out. Fortunately, it would be better. But, I mean, the only reason for that was mainly Mr. Juan Soto, because he chose to make history on this night as well. The night before Aaron Judge made history with his 300th home run, Soto decided to make history of his own by doing this 3 times in a game for the first time in his entire career.
Soto drives it in the air, deep right field. He has done it again. Juan Soto, his first career 3-home run game. Soto 4, White Sox nothing.
What else need be said about this man? For the first time ever, and Soto's done a lot of incredible things, including being a main factor in leading the Washington Nationals of 2019 to a World Series title at just the age of 19, 20 years old, being fresh into Major League Baseball, and all the incredible things he has accomplished since then. He can now add to his already remarkable list at just age 25. The first time ever, he has hit 3 home runs in 1 game. And those 3 home runs amounted to the 4 runs that the Yankees scored the entire night, which ended up leading them to the 4-1 victory that they would have on Tuesday. So as Ruocco said on the broadcast, again, audio and courtesy of the S Network, it was Soto 4 and the White Sox with the final 1. And this is the game that Nestor Cortez started, and he actually did a very nice job for the first time in a while. 7 shutout innings, not walking anybody, only allowing 3 hits and striking out 9 players. Incredible start. Incredible. It's nice to finally see out of him. Then Wednesday comes along, and don't let the final score of 10-2 deceive you, in favor of the Yankees, of course, so they would ultimately win the series. Wish it was a sweep, but listen, series victory is a series victory, but don't let that 10-2 deceive you, because that didn't happen until way later in the game. For the vast majority of the game, all the way up until the 7th, it was actually a very close game. It was just 2-1 White Sox, and you were starting to sweat a little bit, saying, could the Yankees actually lose a series to these historic bums? Like, it's getting really scary. Like, Will Warren started this game, and I didn't really consider him in my overall starting pitching evaluation before, because, I mean, he's only had a couple of starts in the big league so far, and the Yankees have called on him to really push everybody back a day to get them an extra day of rest and just work on their mechanics and whatnot. This is only his 3rd start, but of the 3, this is definitely the best one, even if he was a little bit annoying earlier on, allowing a lot more base runners than was necessary, because he allowed 7 hits in 5 innings, so that was a little frustrating. A couple of runs, 1 on a solo shot as well. But overall, the overall line is nice. 5 innings, the 7 hits, yeah, it's not great, but the no walks, only 2 runs and 5 strikeouts. By far the best outing by Warren, but again, still at times just not really big on the stuff that I saw. And I've definitely seen a lot of visual comparisons on social media of late with both his delivery and his movement on his pitches to Michael King, which is definitely very intriguing and definitely very desirable. But he just hasn't really achieved that yet. I just don't think he's ready. I think he needs more time, which is unfortunate because he's like 25, 26 years old. I think he's 25, but I don't think he's quite ready yet. But he didn't look badly on this night, and the offense was letting him down for a little bit. So, like they were quiet on Monday because they were buried early, and then it just got out of hand at the end, but they were still just very quiet for the vast majority of the night until it got out of hand. And then really just on Tuesday, it was only Soto doing much of anything, so I was kind of getting freaked out towards the later part of this game, like, what is going on with the bats once again here? But then, fortunately, at the very end, they happened to wake up after, the bullpen kept it on lock, too, even after Warren was done. And Soto had started off the game in the top of the first after his 3 home run game, starting off Wednesday with another home run, his 34th of the year and most recent. So that was nice. So then, other than that, in the entire series, up until that point, you see the 2 runs the Yankees scored back on Monday, they were thanks to Aaron Judge and Anthony Volpe infield single driving in a run. So outside of those 2 things, up until the 7th inning of Wednesday, it was only Juan Soto doing any work. The bats were just gone. And other than Nestor and a couple of guys out of the bullpen, the pitching was slacking too. So that's why I ask, which one are you going to get here as far as the Yankees? It's just crazy. But then at the end of the game, thankfully, after Will Warren had given up damage to Gavin Sheets and the offense was dead, Finally, started to see them come out of the woodworks a bit, starting with something awesome in the top of the 7th inning when Alex Verdugo hit a deep fly ball into right center field. It ended up being a very nice catch by Fletcher, but then he ended up falling down a bit afterwards and allowed Oswaldo Cabrera, who was on second base, not surprising he was on base because how good he has been of late, that's why I'm saying play him more. But anyway, it allowed him to actually score on a sac fly from second base because of all the stuff that happened in the outfield. So that was awesome, and that must have lit a fire under them. Because then after that, Austin Wells comes through with Soto and Judge on base with a 2-run single to put the Yankees in the lead 4-2. You exhale a big sigh of relief, and then the Yankees just added on and piled on from there. Waldo, RBI single. Even Alex Verdugo got in on it after his sac fly, thanks to heads-up base running by Waldo with all the mess in the outfield. But even he did some legitimate work this time with an RBI double. Then Judge made his history with number 43 on the year, 300 of his career. A 3-run laser into left field, deep into the Chicago night, made it 9-2. And then Austin Wells would hit a solo shot after that to make it 10-2. And that would be the final. So thankfully, ultimately, the Yankee bats did explode, and they did manage to steal the series in Chicago in what shouldn't have been as close as it was, but hey, they still got out, I guess. Doing what was most important in winning a series, even though a sweep definitely would have been nice and encouraged, but it is what it is. And it was nice to see Austin Wells put in some more work there at the end of the game, because we all know what Austin Wells has done with more and more playing time that he has gotten. The average only just goes up and up and up, and so do the rest of the numbers. And he just continues. He has his moments out there where he might screw up a bit, whether it be behind the plate, not have as good of an at-bat as you would like him to. But more often than not, you cannot argue that Austin Wells has just really grown into a nice catcher here. He did go 0-for-3 in yesterday's game. But with that White Sox series and what he has been doing for the vast majority of the last bunch of weeks, it's been nice to see the growth of Austin Wells while Trevino is out. And that's why I said what I said earlier in the show about playing time. So nonetheless, even if it was a little bit scarier than you would have liked, the Yankees left Chicago with the series victory, and they would move on to Detroit on Friday. Following their Thursday off day, Garrett Cole took the mound, and another solid step forward for the Yankee ace. Very good to see. The strikeouts were back in 6 innings, 8 Ks. Did walk a couple of guys, gave up 4 hits, but it was 6 shutout solid frames for Mr. Garrett Cole. Awesome to see. The bullpen had it on lock with Weaver, Canely, and Clay. Clay had a 1-2-3 inning in this save appearance for his 26th save. Be still my heart. Very rare showing there, but encouraging nonetheless. Always very nice to see. And the Yankee offense did just enough to get the job done. Verdugo getting a sacrifice fly in the top of the first, finally moving out of the leadoff spot and making use of it, so that's great. Top of the 5th, Oswald Peraza with his first home run of 2024 since recently having been called up. That's awesome. Love that. And then in the top of the 8th, Aaron Judge to dead center field for over 430 feet. His 44th and most recent home run. Solo shot, a towering homer to dead center, making it 3-0. And because of the shutdown pitching by Cole and the bullpen, that was the final 3-0 to start the series in Detroit. Followed by the unfortunate game that was yesterday's, Game 2 in the series, with Rodon taking the mound. And regressing once again, unfortunately. Hope that his next time out he could get back to what we have seen for the better part of the last 4 starts or so out of him. But as far as yesterday, 3 1/3, 7 hits, 4 runs, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts. Took the Yankees out of the game early, burying them in a 4-0 hole by the time the second inning was done. The offense could not muster up more than just 4 hits, not a single run to be had. And it was just a game that I'm glad I missed because of the wedding that had me thankfully preoccupied yesterday that I mentioned earlier on in the show. So glad to have missed that game yesterday because they had lost 4-0. That score that was in the second inning, that was the final. Just nothing happened. I mean, the Yankee bullpen did a nice job keeping them off the board after that. Cousins, Meza, Tim Meza, who they had just called up from the minor leagues after they had acquired him from the Blue Jays in the minor league deal, if you remember that from months ago. Leiter Jr. and Tim Hill. I mean, they all kept it on lock. Gave the Yankees an opportunity with their offense to come back in, but just no offense to be had whatsoever. And speaking of no offense, once again, kind of, then you have tonight's game in the Little League Classic over in Pennsylvania. And once again, just for the reminder, that's why I was confused as to why last week I was saying, why are the Yankees and Tigers playing a 7 o'clock Sunday night baseball game? Well, they got the Little League Classic at Bowman Field in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, as I mentioned earlier in the show. And it is a really cool scene. A lot of kids there from some of the best that Little League has to offer. They're spectating. A couple of Major League teams going at it. I know a couple of them were warming up in the bullpen, a couple of Little League kids, and they had some of the Yankees guys like Rodon and Verdugo and a few of the others like literally watching them warming up. Can you imagine that happening? If you're just a kid warming up and just throwing to a catcher in the bullpen session, and you got New York Yankees players like less than 10 feet away from you, spectating and watching you throw.
Holy crap.
That is definitely worth a second Frank Barone, holy crap. That's just crazy. And now you see all of them, they're having so much fun in the stands, even though this game does not have much action in it. But I mean, it's still awesome to be able to watch, and it's still at this historic stadium in Bowman Field for the Little League World Series there where it's usually played. So, cool things going on tonight, even though, again, not much action at all in this game. It is the bottom of the 7th. Luke Weaver's in this game. They didn't let Marcus Stroman continue into the 7th inning despite his very economical pitch count, but still a hell of an outing for him. 6 shutout. I know it's the Tigers, but still, credit to be given to that. And I know they also had that relay play at the plate. Could have very well been a run with the game being tied right now after the Yankees scored their run off a wild pitch against Skubal. But nonetheless, they got him at the plate, and his line is what it is, and he should be proud of it. 6 shutouts, so Marcus Stroman's second start in a row where he's starting to turn things around a little bit here, which is very, very nice. They need as much as they can get from that with the starting rotation, as we've said. But bottom of the 7th, still 1-0. Weaver is in this game. I imagine we might see the same formula that we saw in the first game of the series in Detroit when he grabs this inning, and Tommy Kahnle might get the 8th, and then we'll probably see Clay for the 9th. But it is a little close for comfort. It's only 1-0 still. So, and the Yankees only have their 1 run on the wild pitch, as I said. So, we'll see if anything happens for the remainder of the game here. But it's going by very fast because of the limited amount of offense and little to no scoring at all going on here. It's going by very quickly. I did not think I was going to get through this entire game when I was still recording, but I might actually make it nearly to the 9th inning, if not exactly the 9th. So that's pretty crazy. As far as what's ahead for the remainder of the week, my friends, for the week to come, again, like I mentioned before, the Yankees do have an off day tomorrow, Monday the 19th. They resume play on Tuesday when they return home, which is actually, you're bummed out that they return home because, like I said before, their road record is so much better than their home record, confusingly so this year, but that's the way it is. But they'll return home on Tuesday to face the Guardians, which, as I mentioned last week and I'm mentioning again here today, is really their only tough matchup for most of the month of August, definitely for the rest of the way out for the rest of the month. But they'll come back home with Luis Gil taking the mound on Tuesday for the 7:05 p.m. Eastern game against the Guardians, who find themselves with a 72-52 record to this point, right behind the Yankees, right there like they have been for the vast majority of the season, competing for the best record in not only the American League, but throughout all of baseball. And the Yankees are right there for that as they continue. If they win tonight, they'll be 74-51, and they'll have the best record. So just keep on going. That's all I can say, really. But then Wednesday, they'll be back in action, 7:05 p.m. Eastern again. Nestor will be on the mound for this one. And once again, since it is Wednesday, like it has been for most of the season, this game will be on Amazon Prime Video. Just a little bit of a broadcasting notice for my good people out there. And then on Thursday, for the getaway game, it'll be at 1:05 p.m. Eastern, so a weekday day game. Notoriously not a fan of these. We all know that. But Garrett Cole will take the mound to finish off this 3-game set against the Guardians for this one. And then on Friday, the Colorado Rockies come to town for a 3-game weekend set. I'm glad they'll be here and not in Coors Field, even if the Yankees are better on the road this year for whatever reason. You definitely want to play in Coors because no matter how bad the Rockies are in any given season, anything can happen in Coors Field. But this one will be at Yankee Stadium. No pitching matchups announced for this series as of yet, but Friday will be at 7:05 p.m. Eastern. Saturday will be at 2:05 p.m. Eastern. And then Sunday the 25th, when we shall yap again, that game will be at 1:35 p.m. Eastern before the Yankees hit the road once again after the conclusion of next weekend's series. So that's the deal, guys. We're heading to the top of the 8th now. It's still 1-0. The 7th inning actually just ended off with Waldo cracking one to dead center field, but Meadows was right there to make the play. And that's a shame because the Yankees did have Volpe on base there. But he hits it right to center field. Glad Waldo's actually getting some playing time tonight because I was saying the Yankees need to play him more than they have recently since Jazz went down. But nonetheless, 8th inning, still 1-0 Yankees in Pennsylvania in the Little League Classic against the Tigers. And that is what's ahead after giving what has happened this past week. The only thing left to do for today, guys, is Yankees news after all that. So let's say we get to it because we actually do have quite a bit to discuss between who's coming up for this one game, who already is up, and it's nice to see a familiar face with that and everything going on with Jazz Chisholm and the rest of the roster moves. So let's get right to that. We start with Monday after things couldn't get much worse, or at least you thought things couldn't get much worse after that travesty, in which it was the second time in franchise history that the Yankees had 20-plus base runners and scored 2 or fewer runs in a 9-inning game. Last time they had done that was in September of 1912 against the A's. Stranded 16 guys on base. So, you didn't think it'd get much worse after all that in the 12-2 embarrassment, right? Well, no, because after Jazz had gotten his injury on his arm after that slide, he had imaging done on his elbow after it was discussed that he had had an x-ray that came back completely clean, which we were all relieved about, if you remember. But then Monday, this news, just to add on to everything else that was just great about that day, I guess. He had imaging done, further imaging like an MRI and whatnot. And after encouraging news, after the x-rays, this one actually said that it spotted something, did the MRI. And the funny thing is that reports said that Jazz actually woke up ready to play the very next day after that slide play. He was ready to go until the imaging revealed this something in his MRI test, which that something would obviously end up being a sprain. Now, because he actually felt good immediately thereafter, and he actually said afterwards that he expected only a couple of days to go by before he started swinging a bat again to test whether or not he's truly okay in that elbow. And you hear UCL, and you get instantly nervous, of course, because we've heard of position players like tearing their UCL and needing Tommy John surgery. Not even just being pitchers. We've heard this in many cases. We've seen it in many cases. We saw it with Dominguez. We saw it with Aaron Hicks. Many others throughout the entire game. Those are just Yankee examples alone just within the last few years. So it's nice to know it was just a sprain and that he felt better like the very next day. But they're just being very careful with it, and he should be back very soon. So that's the good thing. But while he's gone, that was when I spoke about before that they called Oswald Peraza back up, which will probably be undone as soon as Jazz's 10-day IL stint is up because, again, because of the lack of severity with this sprain, it sounds like he could be reactivated right when that 10 days are up. But let's hope until that does happen while Oswald Peraza is up here that he's just not jerked around and he gets as much playing time as possible because he has been hot, as I said, in the minors of late, so give him that time to show what he's got. Put him at third base a bunch like you have already, just let it keep happening. Then the next piece of news, roster news being, was that just 2 weeks again after being acquired at the deadline, this is what I had mentioned before with De Los Santos, he was DFA'd after his complete meltdown in Chicago. And again, warranted, more than warranted if we're being really honest. The guy had a 14.21 ERA in his 5 outings combined with the Yankees. That's just not going to cut it. It's a shame because the Yankees knew they had to make bullpen improvements, and while Mark Leiter Jr. has gotten into his bouts of trouble, he has mostly done what he was brought here to do, strike out guys, because the Yankees are a very contact-heavy bullpen, as we know for months now. But, I mean, other than that, it was really just De Los Santos, and he was so bad that after just a couple of weeks, he was already DFA'd. Just not a great look. But he's already gone. So that's the deal with that. In turn, after all this, the Yankees actually officially signed Tim Meza to a Major League contract. Meza had been acquired from the Blue Jays minor league deal. He'd been DFA'd by Toronto and then cleared waivers, but then the Blue Jays released him, so the Yankees had picked him up months ago, if you recall. And now the Yankees had called him up to fortify the bullpen as best as he possibly could in light of the De Los Santos DFAing. So we'll see what happens there. He already had a nice play where he almost just sacrificed his body there in this Detroit series. So we'll see what he continues to do for this bullpen. He did pitch a scoreless frame in yesterday's game. We'll see what he does to help uplift things going forward. And then on Thursday, as we had mentioned, he's in today's game and has played quite a few times this weekend already. But the Yankees officially had returned Jose Trevino from his rehab assignment and reinstated him from the 10-day injured list. And as expected, they immediately optioned Carlos Narvaez back down to AAA. In turn of that, we all know Trevino's been back, but that was the official roster move and transaction. And finally, we talk about the man who was brought up for today's game in the Little League Classic. Any event that happens outside of just the regular Major League Baseball stadiums, like even an event in London and whatnot, warrants a team to select a 27th man for the roster. And that man for today, as we know, as you well know at this point, I just don't even know how I kept a secret this entire time. Don't really know what the point was of doing so, but hey, we're riding with it. Anyways, the 27th man is none other than Jason Dominguez. And despite him having really a nothing night so far, he's having a decent night out in left field, but not really doing much at the plate, but it's only one night, and he's probably going to get optioned right away again after this when the roster goes back down to 26 for when the Yankees return to New York. But while it's sad that he's going to go back down, we all want Jason just back up here, period, especially in light of Verdugo doing what he's doing, or I guess I should say not doing. But like I said last week and the weeks prior, despite us being very frustrated that he's not up here yet and at Brian Cashman's recent statements regarding him, he's probably just not going to be called up until the rosters expand on September 1st. It's all about the manipulation of the years under control, guys. That's what it's all about. Cashman can spin it any way he wants and make himself look as dumb as he possibly can day in and day out by saying, oh, there's no lane for Jason Dominguez on the 2024 Yankees. Like, it's just, come on, nobody in the world freaking believes that. We all know that there is very much a lane for Jason Dominguez, but Brian Cashman is perfectly entitled to make himself sound as stupid as he possibly can. But nonetheless, we're probably going to see him just when the rosters expand, so another, I don't know, less than 2 weeks, guys. I think next week's episode will be the last time we talk about a Yankee team that does not have Jason Dominguez on its roster. By the time we have the following episode on, I believe it should be, I think it actually should be September 1st, if I'm not mistaken. If I take a quick gander at the calendar here. Yeah, September 1st, that should be the day the roster expand. You're probably going to see Jason Dominguez back on this team. I'll be very confused and surprised if he's not. But nonetheless, Jason Dominguez is up here for this game. It is nice to see him, and I look forward to hopefully seeing him again in about 2 weeks from now. But it's still great to see the Martian back for the first time in 2024. He has not been in a big league game since late last year, and he went down with the UCL injury, man. It's good to still see him, and I look forward again to seeing him on a more consistent basis, hopefully, once the rosters expand. As far as others who are still on the injured list and working their ways back, you've got Ian Hamilton, part of the imminent bullpen reinforcements you hope. He had thrown his first live batting practice session on August 16th, a couple of days ago, and Boone said it did go well. So just still working his way back and to throw more live batting practice sessions and hopefully soon get into a rehab assignment and return maybe towards the end of August if the Yankees are fortunate. Beginning of September at the worst, hopefully. We'll see what happens there. As far as the rest of the bullpen or just overall pitching reinforcements, you have Clark Schmidt. I mean, they're basically definitively saying it's just full on September for his potential return now. He had another live batting practice session just today, and it should be his fourth and final one before officially starting his rehab assignment, so that's good. His rehab assignment should be starting in 4 days, or give or take, around August 22nd. So they're looking at potentially the second week of September, and hopefully he could build back up to be at least a fraction of the promising young pitcher we saw taking those next steps in his young Major League Baseball starting pitching career all those months ago. If we could get a fraction of that, I think the Yankees will be pretty fortunate for that and thank their lucky stars for it. So we'll see what happens there, but he's continuing to work his way back. Obviously, you got Cody Poteet, another great potential backup starting pitching option. He's looking at a September return time as well, but he had another live batting practice session himself 3 days ago on the 15th, and he's still just being seen as September now. I mean, he was seen potentially as August before, but they pushed him back a little bit, so maybe the first week of September. We'll see there. Potential other bullpen reinforcements are still down in AAA. They're officially off the injured list and still just building back up. You got Nick Birdie and Scott Effross still down there. As far as offensive pieces, when it comes to them returning from injury, firstly, you got John Birdie. He's looking still at a September return as well. He's still in Tampa, Florida, but he is expecting to begin a rehab assignment himself this week. Although the date hasn't been officially said yet as of this moment, he's expecting to begin his rehab assignment this week, so that's good news for him. I'm not sure really what capacity 100% he's going to be used when he returns. I hope he doesn't take a spot that really legitimately belongs to Oswaldo, for instance, as far as utility, because as far as versatility goes, Oswaldo will give you more, and I think he has really earned that utility role there. So I hope Birdie just doesn't take away a deserved position from somebody else, to be honest. But I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens. We've seen countless examples of these things usually taking care of themselves, as we always say. So we'll see what happens when the time comes that he's ready to go. Otherwise, you have Anthony Rizzo as well. He's still been able to perform his baseball activities. He's been swinging a bat pretty lightly of late and still doing his fielding work, as we spoke about last week. But he's still healing up. He does feel pretty good at this point in the game, but I don't know, they're still not really sure when he's going to be back yet. They're just generally saying September possibly, but it's still pretty up in the air. He's still just doing his drills and his general activities. As far as everybody else, guys, for the most part, the other names you're really not expected to see back probably until next year. I mean, you got Johnny Lowe, you got Everson Pereira, obviously, and you have JT Brubaker. I just don't really expect to see him at all, so I'm not holding my breath with him whatsoever. Clayton Beater's not going to be back till next year, of course. You do have Lou Trevino. I mean, they're saying that he might still be back in September. He did begin his rehab assignment. I'll believe it when I see it, though. So that's potentially other bullpen reinforcements. But again, you can't even really put too much stock in that because he hasn't been on a mound in basically 2 full calendar years at this point. It's been a long time there, so I don't know. Not holding my breath there. And even when he does come back, how much will he be able to supply? Will they put him in the minor leagues to build up anyway like they're doing with Nick Birdie and Scott Efros, and he might not even see any time up here? We'll see what happens, but he is in the middle of a rehab assignment as well. And that's the latest on all the injuries and roster news, my friends. And with that being said, with everything being done, that is all for Yapping Yankees today. Episode 231 wrapped up. And this game finds itself in the top of the 9th right now. It's still 1-0 Yankees. I mean, Clay Holmes is probably going to be in the game in the bottom of the 9th, so nothing is certain. The Yankees could very well blow this. I mean, I don't mean to put it out into the universe. You've already seen it as you're listening at this very moment. But when it comes to Clay Holmes, I mean, it doesn't matter who puts what into the universe per se. Clay Holmes has a tendency to blow games. And to, well, blow in general because he's not a good closer. We've well established this. So it's a shame that we can't get the Clay back that we got in the first 2 months where he didn't have an ERA even for all that time. Well, we're paying for it now. And despite his 1-2-3 inning the other day, I mean, Clay's going to blow a game again eventually. Could be tonight. Hope it's not tonight, but I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest. And these special event games, whether it be the Field of Dreams game or anywhere else the Yankees have gone, even London was really weird with all that high-scoring crap. But these kind of games usually don't end well for the Yankees. So wouldn't be surprised if tonight's a night where Clay Holmes blows it. I don't know. We'll see. Because right now, at the moment I'm recording, it's still the 9th inning, top of the 9th, so that hasn't happened yet. But I'm ending right now, so I'm not going to be able to react to the bottom of the 9th. I'll probably be editing during that. But let's just hope that he gets it done and the Yankees don't lose a series to the freaking Tigers over here. And although there's still plenty of time left to go, they don't have to retie Baltimore for first place and they could just still have sole possession of it, not fall back into a tie. If the Yankees win again, though, tonight, they'll be 74-51, which by a half a game over the Phillies would be the best record in baseball once again. If they lose and fall to a 73-52 record, they'll be tied with the Orioles and the Dodgers for the second best record in baseball, only a half a game behind the Phillies. So either way, they're still neck and neck right there, staying even for the most part from week to week. But you want them to win a freaking series against the Tigers. And as we've established, they're typically better on the road, despite the fact that this is an unorthodox location today. But in any event, we'll see how this one ends. You guys know the outcome of it. I do not. Hopefully the Yankees seal a deal. It's a little too close for comfort for me. I don't like how the offense did absolutely nothing, and it's only a one-run game, just outside of that wild pitch that they took advantage of and scored off a Scooble on. Not to mention that the biggest fact of it all is that I do not trust Clay Holmes and never could as closer, as far as I could throw him. So I don't like the feelings of this going late into the game, but I pray that I'm wrong. Oftentimes, I'm right about this sort of a thing. I hope I'm wrong here, and we could just coast nicely into an off day, and then just arrive back home on Tuesday and face the Guardians. And hopefully have a little bit of revival of the offense here, because like I said before, we're not really knowing what you're going to get. One thing we have gotten this past week, with the exception of Wednesday when the Yankees scored 10 runs, most of those being at the end of the game in that final game in Chicago, the offense has just not been there this past week. We know teams go through offensive slumps, but let's turn things around offensively as well for this coming week, because it just has not been it. We'll see what happens, though, my friends, because as of right now, as I said before, episode 231 is all wrapped up nice and neatly with a bow on top. Remember to follow me on all social medias if you do not already, my friends. Mike Scudero NY is my Facebook fan page. My Twitter, or X, is at Mike Scudero, and my Instagram is at Mike Scuds97. Please be sure to subscribe to Yapping Yankees on all 4 of the platforms it is available on as well. That is YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and SoundCloud. Like, subscribe, comment wherever you may be listening to show your love like you always do such a great job at doing, my good people. And if you have the time, if you've missed any past Yapping Yankees episodes, the places to find them. On YouTube, you can find episodes 34 all the way up to today's episode, episode 231. And on all the other 3 platforms, being SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify, you can find any episode going all the way back to episode 1 up to episode 231 today. But once again, I thank you 3,000 for listening to me yap today. As always, my friends, I have been your host, Mike Scudero, and we shall yap once again next Sunday, August the 25th, the final August episode of 2024, when I come at you with episode 232 of Yapping Yankees. But until then, guys, as I always say, hang in there, be patient, especially please stay safe, look out for your loved ones, go ahead and kick life's ass this week. And although I'm only talking to myself here because you out there already know the outcome of tonight, Sunday night's game, Yanks, please just wrap this up so we could have ourselves another at least decent week. Let's try to find some consistency where everybody's just clicking at the same time, and we're not either the best team on the face of the earth or, on the complete other hand, looking like a team that could be beaten by the very kids watching you in the crowd today for Little League. So let's just try to find some middle ground and consistency, huh? What do you say? A little bit less stress on yourselves, us, the fans. One could dream. Well. Until next Sunday, my good friends, take care, and let's go Yanks.